What do you see when a black man in scrubs is running toward a hospital at 2 a.m.? A doctor trying to save a life? Or a threat that needs to be stopped? On one cold October night, the answer to that question would determine whether a woman lived or died, and whether an innocent man would lose everything he'd ever worked for. This is the true story of Dr. Spencer Tate, the cardiac surgeon who discovered that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be in America is right. You know that moment right before your life splits in two? That breath between the before and the after? Dr. Spencer Tate had that moment at exactly 2:17 in the morning on October 14th, when his phone shattered the silence of his bedroom. In the darkness, his hand reached automatically for the vibrating phone on his nightstand. 14 years of being a cardiac surgeon had trained his body to wake instantly, completely. No grogginess, no confusion, just the immediate, electric alertness that saves lives. "Dr. Tate," he answered, voice steady despite his racing heart. "Spencer, it's Linda in the ER. We have a code blue, massive MI, patient crashing. She needs you now. Cath lab is prepped. Massive MI. Myocardial infarction. Heart attack. And not just any heart attack. The kind that kills you while doctors watch helplessly unless a surgeon can get there fast enough." "I'm 15 minutes out," Tate said, already throwing off his covers, feet hitting the cold floor. "Spencer," Linda's voice cracked, and that scared him more than anything else. Linda Vasquez had been an ER nurse for 23 years. She didn't crack. She's 38 years old. 2 kids. Her heart. "Spencer, she doesn't have 15 minutes. He was already moving, pulling on the scrubs he kept folded on his dresser for exactly these moments. "Tell the team I'm coming. Keep her alive, Linda. Just keep her breathing." He hung up and paused for just 1 second at his daughter's bedroom door. Ava, 16 years old, sleeping peacefully, her homework spread across her desk, her phone charging on the nightstand. His entire world in one small room. His wife, Maria, had been gone for 3 years now. Cancer had taken her slowly, cruelly. Ava was all he had left. And he was all she had. He couldn't wake her. She had school in a few hours. She needed sleep. She needed normalcy. He grabbed his hospital badge, his wallet, his keys, and ran. The streets were empty at this hour, that strange dead time when even the city seems to hold its breath. Tate's hands gripped the steering wheel, his BMW humming through the darkness. 15 minutes. He could make it in 12 if the lights were with him. In his mind, he was already in the operating room. Already seeing the heart, planning the procedure, calculating the angles and the cuts. Rebecca Whitmore. That was the name Linda had said. He didn't know her. Didn't know her face, her story, her dreams. But in a few minutes, her life would literally be in his hands. He thought about her 2 children. Thought about them waking up in the morning, asking where mommy was. He thought about Ava, and how empty her eyes had been the day Maria died. Not this woman. Not tonight. He would save her. St. Clement Regional Medical Center rose ahead of him, a tower of lights in the darkness. Tate turned into the parking lot, already reaching for his badge, already running through the procedure in his mind. Then he saw the lights. Red and blue, flashing, reflecting off the glass doors of the emergency entrance. A police cruiser, parked at an angle, blocking the path to the doctor's parking area. Tate's stomach dropped, but he told himself it was fine. Probably an incident in the ER. Domestic violence case. Overdose. The police were always around hospitals at night. He started to drive around the cruiser, heading for his spot. "Stop the vehicle." A voice boomed from behind a flashlight beam, so bright it blinded him. "Stop the vehicle now." Tate stopped, confusion flooding through him. His badge was already in his hand, already visible on the dashboard. "Turn off the engine. Hands where I can see them." Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Tate turned off the engine, raised his hands, and watched in the rearview mirror as an officer approached, hand on his weapon. The officer appeared at his window, flashlight beam cutting across Tate's face. White man, maybe 50, with the kind of face that had forgotten how to smile. His name tag read Caldwell. "License and registration," Sergeant Darren Caldwell said, his voice flat, cold. "Officer, I'm a doctor," Tate said, speaking carefully, clearly. "I'm Dr. Spencer Tate, cardiac surgeon. I have a patient coding right now in the ER. I need to get inside immediately." "License and registration," Caldwell repeated, as if Tate hadn't spoken at all. "Sir, please." Tate pointed to his badge on the dashboard, then to the hospital ID hanging around his neck, visible on his scrubs. "I'm wearing scrubs." I work here. I have a woman dying right now, and I'm the only surgeon who can save her. Step out of the vehicle. Time seemed to stop. In the distance, through the walls of the hospital, Rebecca Whitmore's heart was failing. Every second, more muscle tissue dying, more oxygen deprivation, more permanent damage. Officer, I'm begging you. Step out of the vehicle now, or I will remove you forcibly. Tate's hands were shaking. Not from fear, though God knows he was afraid, but from rage, from disbelief, from the absolute insanity of what was happening. He stepped out of the car. Hands on the vehicle. Officer Caldwell. Tate tried again, reading the name tag, trying to make this human, trying to make this real. My name is Dr. Spencer Tate. I've worked at this hospital for 8 years. I have a patient. Hands on the vehicle. Tate put his hands on the hood of his BMW. The metal was cool under his palms. These hands that had saved hundreds of lives. These hands that had held his daughter when she cried for her mother. These hands that were supposed to be inside a chest cavity right now, repairing a dying heart. Caldwell kicked his feet apart, patted him down roughly. I have ID, Tate said, trying to keep his voice steady. I have my hospital badge, my medical license, You match the description of a suspect. What suspect? What description? Caldwell didn't answer. He grabbed Tate's wrist, twisted it behind his back. The handcuffs were cold. They clicked shut with a sound that would haunt Tate's dreams for years to come. Officer, please, there is a woman dying right now. Save it for the station. I'm not resisting. I'm cooperating. Just call the hospital. Just call inside and they'll confirm. Across the parking lot, a figure moved in the shadows. Someone with a phone, camera pointed at them. Recording. Tate didn't know it then, but that video would change everything. That video would be seen by millions. That video would make him famous for all the wrong reasons. But right now, in this moment, all Tate could think about was Rebecca Whitmore. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Caldwell grabbed it, looked at the screen. Street Clementniar flashed on the caller ID. That's the hospital, Tate said, desperation bleeding into his voice. They're calling because the patient is dying. Please just answer it. Just talk to them. Caldwell sent the call to voicemail. The phone buzzed again immediately. Again, Caldwell declined it. How long are you going to keep me here? Tate asked. Caldwell was running his license now, calling it in on his radio. Taking his time. How long? Tate demanded. As long as it takes. Tate looked at the hospital entrance. So close. 50 yards away. He could see the ER doors, see the lights, see the building where a woman was dying. His phone rang again. Caldwell declined it again. She's going to die, Tate said quietly. Not angry now. Not defiant. Just stating a medical fact. Every minute without blood flow, her brain loses oxygen. Her heart muscle is necrotizing. If I don't get in there in the next few minutes, even if I save her life, she'll have permanent damage. Caldwell said nothing. I'm black, Tate said, and he hated that he had to say it, hated that this was what it came down to. That's what this is about, isn't it? You see a black man in a nice car at 2 a.m., and you see a suspect. You don't see the scrubs. You don't see the badge. You don't see the doctor. You just see the skin. I see someone who matches a description, Caldwell said, but there was something in his eyes now. Something defensive. What description? Tate pressed. Tell me exactly what description I match. Height. Wait. What am I supposedly suspected of? Caldwell's jaw tightened. He didn't answer. Behind them, another car pulled into the parking lot. A Dr. Tate recognized, Dr. Patricia Chun, an anesthesiologist. She jumped out of her car, still in street clothes, eyes wide. Spencer? What the hell is going on? Patricia, tell him, Tate called out. Tell him I'm a surgeon. Tell him I work here. Patricia rushed toward them, her phone already out. Officer, this is Dr. Spencer Tate. He's our chief cardiac surgeon. What are you doing? Ma'am, step back. No, I will not step back. He has a patient coding right now. I just got called in to assist. What possible reason do you have for detaining him? Police business. Step back, or you'll be charged with obstruction. Patricia's face flushed red, but she stepped back. She was already dialing her phone, calling someone, probably the hospital administrator, maybe even a lawyer. Tate closed his eyes. Tried to center himself. Tried to think through the panic. How long had it been? 5 minutes since Caldwell stopped him? 6. Rebecca Whitmore had minutes, not hours. The human brain can survive about 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen before irreversible damage begins. The heart muscle could tolerate a little longer, but not much. Every second he stood here in handcuffs was a second that woman's organs were dying. Officer Caldwell, Tate said, and this time his voice was different. Calm. Almost clinical. The voice he used with patients' families when delivering bad news. I need you to understand something. In about 3 minutes, the woman in that hospital is going to suffer permanent brain damage if I don't operate on her. In 6 or 7 minutes, she's going to die. You can verify who I am in 10 seconds by calling the hospital. Or you can keep me here, and when she dies, you're going to have to live with the fact that you killed her. For the first time, something flickered in Caldwell's eyes. Uncertainty. His radio crackled. A voice came through. Dispatch to Unit 47, come in. Caldwell keyed his radio. Unit 47. We have St. Clement Hospital on the line. They're asking about a doctor in the parking lot. They say they have a medical emergency. Caldwell looked at Tate. Really looked at him this time. Saw the scrubs. Saw the badge. Saw the ID around his neck. Saw maybe what he should have seen from the beginning. Stand by, Caldwell said into his radio. He reached for his keys. Unlocked the handcuffs. Tate's wrists were raw where the metal had bitten into his skin. He barely noticed. Go, Caldwell said quietly. Tate didn't wait for him to change his mind. He ran. Through the parking lot, through the automatic doors, past the security desk, down the hallway where night shift nurses jumped out of his way. His badge bounced against his chest. His heart hammered in his ears. 8 minutes. It had been 8 minutes since Caldwell stopped him. 8 minutes that might as well have been 8 hours. He burst through the doors of the cardiac cath lab, where his team waited, faces tight with stress and fear. She's still with us, Linda said. But Spencer, her rhythm is. I know. I see it. Tate was already at the sink, scrubbing, the water running red from the raw skin on his wrists where the handcuffs had been. Get me gloved. Now. His hands moved automatically, muscle memory taking over where his conscious mind was still screaming with rage and disbelief. The surgical gloves snapped into place. The sterile gown wrapped around him. And then he was standing over Rebecca Whitmore. She was pale, so pale. Unconscious, intubated, her chest open where the surgical team had already begun prep. Monitors beeped and wailed around her. Her heart, visible through the surgical field, was barely moving, weak, arrhythmic, dying. BP is dropping, someone called out. I see it. Clamp. The instrument was in his hand before he finished speaking. His team had worked with him for years. They moved like a single organism, anticipating his needs. But Tate could see it immediately. The damage. 8 minutes of oxygen deprivation. 8 minutes of blood flow compromised. The heart muscle was darker than it should be in some areas. Tissue that should have been pink and healthy was dusky, sluggish. He could fix the blockage. He could repair the immediate damage. He could save her life. But those 8 minutes had left their mark. Permanent. Irreversible. Bypass, he ordered, and the team moved into action. For the next 2 hours, Spencer Tate did what he did best. He fought death with precision and skill and stubborn determination. He repaired the torn vessel. He cleared the blockage. He massaged that failing heart with his own hands until it found its rhythm again. And slowly, gradually, Rebecca Whitmore's vital signs stabilized. She's back, Linda whispered, and there were tears in her eyes. Tate nodded. But he didn't smile. Because he knew what the monitors couldn't show yet. He knew what the scans would reveal in the coming hours. 8 minutes of oxygen deprivation. Brain damage. Heart muscle permanently weakened. A life saved, but a body permanently scarred. All because a police officer saw a black man and decided that was suspicious enough. After the surgery, Tate stripped off his gloves, his gown, and stood at the sink washing his hands for longer than necessary. His team filed out quietly, exhausted, relieved, but sensing his mood. Patricia Chun touched his shoulder. You saved her, Spencer. Did I? His voice was hollow. Yes. Without you, she'd be dead. Without that cop, she'd be fine. Patricia had no answer for that. Tate dried his hands and walked to the waiting room. It was nearly 5 a.m. now. The sun would be up soon. Ava would be waking up, getting ready for school, wondering where her father was. In the waiting room, a man stood as soon as Tate entered. Tall, white, maybe 60 years old, with silver hair and the kind of bearing that spoke of authority. He wore a police uniform. Not just any uniform. The uniform of a chief. Dr. Tate? The man said, extending his hand. I'm Chief Gerald Whitmore. Rebecca is my wife. Tate shook his hand mechanically. Chief. How is she? She's alive. The surgery was successful. But, Tate paused, choosing his words carefully. Professional. Clinical. The delay in getting to her caused some complications. We'll need to run tests, but there's likely some degree of permanent damage to her heart function and possibly neurological effects. Chief Whitmore's face went pale. Permanent damage? What kind of damage? She'll need extensive follow-up. Cardiac rehabilitation. Possibly medication for the rest of her life. We won't know the full extent until she wakes up, and we can do complete neurological assessments. But she's alive. Yes, she's alive. Whitmore's eyes shimmered with tears. Thank you, doctor. Thank you for saving my wife. There was something in the way he said it. Something that made Tate's skin crawl. A strange intensity. But he was too exhausted to process it. I was just doing my job, Tate said. I heard about the incident in the parking lot. Whitmore's voice dropped lower. I want you to know that I'll be speaking with Sergeant Caldwell. That should never have happened. Tate met his eyes. No, it shouldn't have. You have my word that there will be consequences. Tate nodded, but the words felt empty. He'd heard promises like that before. Promises from people in positions of power who wanted to smooth things over, make the uncomfortable incident go away. He left the hospital as the sun rose, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Beautiful. The world had no right to be beautiful on a morning like this. His car was still in the parking lot where he'd left it, driver's door still open, keys still in the ignition. Someone had turned off the engine. Probably Patricia. Tate sat in the driver's seat and stared at his wrists. Red marks, already beginning to bruise. The shape of handcuffs imprinted on his skin. His phone had dozens of missed calls. The hospital. Patricia. Other colleagues. And one message from a number he didn't recognize. He opened it. It was a video. Shaky, taken from across the parking lot. But clear enough. Clear enough to see a black doctor in scrubs, hands raised, being handcuffed. Clear enough to hear him begging to get to his patient. Clear enough to see the officer declining phone call after phone call from the hospital. The video was time-stamped. 8 minutes and 27 seconds. From the moment Caldwell stopped him to the moment he unlocked the handcuffs. 8 minutes and 27 seconds that had changed everything. Below the video, a message. Thought you should see this. It's already online. I'm sorry, Dr. Tate. Tate's hands started shaking. Not with fear now. With something deeper. A rage so profound it felt like grief. He drove home in the growing light, his city waking up around him. People going to work, getting coffee, walking dogs. Living their normal Tuesday lives. Not knowing that by the time they checked their phones, by the time they logged into social media, they would see Dr. Spencer Tate being handcuffed in a hospital parking lot while a woman died. Not knowing that this video would be shared 1 million times by noon. Not knowing that the hashtag Justice for Dr. Tate would trend worldwide before sunset. Not knowing that this was just the beginning. When Tate got home, Ava was in the kitchen making breakfast before school. She looked up when he walked in, her face breaking into a smile. Morning, Dad. How was the? She stopped. Saw his face. Saw his wrists. Dad, what happened? And Spencer Tate, who had saved hundreds of lives, who had held hearts in his hands, who had buried his wife and raised his daughter and built a career on steadiness and strength, felt something crack inside him. Sit down, baby girl, he said quietly. We need to talk. Outside, the world was waking up. And soon it would be watching. By 9 o'clock that Tuesday morning, Spencer Tate's life had become public property. The video had been viewed 3 million times. By noon, it would be 30 million. By evening, it would be everywhere. Every news channel, every social media platform, every conversation in every break room across America. Tate sat in his living room, his daughter beside him on the couch, watching himself on the television screen. CNN was running the footage on a loop. Fox News was running it. MSNBC. Local stations. International news. Over and over, the same 8 minutes and 27 seconds. The same raised hands. The same pleading voice. The same cold indifference from Sergeant Darren Caldwell. This morning, a disturbing video has gone viral, the news anchor said, her face grave. Dr. Spencer Tate, a respected cardiac surgeon, was detained by police while rushing to save a patient's life. The patient, we've learned, survived but suffered complications due to the delay. The internet is calling it a clear case of racial profiling, and the hashtag Justice for Dr. Tate is trending worldwide. Ava's hand found his. Squeezed tight. Dad, everyone's on your side, she said. Look at all the support. But Tate knew better. He'd lived long enough to know how these stories went. Today, everyone was on his side. Today, he was the hero wronged by the system. But tomorrow? Tomorrow, the narrative could shift. The system had a way of protecting itself, of finding angles, of rewriting stories. His phone rang. The hospital administrator, Marcus Chin. Spencer, we need you to come in. There's been a development. The word hung in the air like a threat. What kind of development? A pause. It's better if we discuss this in person. Tate closed his eyes. Marcus, just tell me. The hospital board has decided that given the publicity and the pending investigation, it would be best if you took a leave of absence. The words were professional, sterile, but what they meant was clear. You're suspending me. It's administrative leave. With pay. Just until things settle down. I did nothing wrong. Spencer, I know that. We all know that. But the board is concerned about the attention this is bringing to the hospital. And with the investigation. What investigation? Another pause. Longer this time. Spencer, the district attorney's office has opened an investigation into the incident. They'll want to speak with you. Tate's blood ran cold. An investigation into the police officer, you mean? Into the events of last night. All aspects. All aspects, Tate repeated slowly. Marcus, are you telling me they're investigating me? I'm telling you that you need a lawyer. A good one. And you need to not speak to anyone, not the press, not the police, not anyone, until you have representation. The line went dead. Tate sat there, phone in his hand, staring at nothing. Dad! Ava's voice was small, frightened. He turned to her, forced a smile he didn't feel. It's okay, baby. It's going to be okay. But it wasn't okay. And somewhere deep in his gut, Spencer Tate knew that it was about to get a whole lot worse. The press conference came 3 days later. District Attorney Michael Harrison stood at a podium, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. He was young for a DA, ambitious, with political aspirations everyone knew about. This case had given him a national stage. After a thorough review of the events of October 14th, Harrison said, his voice measured and grave, my office has determined that there is sufficient evidence to bring charges against Dr. Spencer Tate for reckless endangerment. The room erupted. Tate, watching from his living room, felt the floor drop out from under him. Dr. Tate's decision to engage in a confrontation with police, knowing he had a patient in critical condition, showed a reckless disregard for his patient's welfare, Harrison continued. While we understand emotions were running high, medical professionals have a duty to their patients that supersedes personal grievances. By choosing to argue with the officer rather than comply quickly and proceed to his patient, Dr. Tate created the very delay he now claims was unjust. That's not what happened, Ava shouted at the TV. That's not what the video shows. But Tate understood what was happening. They were flipping the script. The victim was becoming the perpetrator. The man who had done everything right was being blamed for the system's failure. A reporter shouted a question. What about the officer? Will Sergeant Caldwell face any charges? Our investigation found that Sergeant Caldwell was responding to a report of a suspicious vehicle and followed proper protocol. While the encounter was unfortunate, the officer acted within the scope of his duties. No charges will be filed against him. The rage that washed over Tate was unlike anything he'd ever felt. Pure. White-hot. All-consuming. His phone rang. His lawyer, David Kellerman, a man he'd hired 2 days ago on the recommendation of Patricia Chin. Don't say anything, David said immediately. Don't go anywhere. Don't speak to anyone. I'm coming to you. They're charging me with reckless endangerment. Me. Not the cop who stopped me. Not the system that profiled me. Me. I know. I'm watching it. Spencer, listen to me very carefully. This is political. Harrison is running for state attorney general next year. He needs the police union's support. He can't go after a cop, so he's going after you. This is insane. Yes, it is. And we're going to fight it. But you need to stay calm and you need to stay quiet. Tate hung up and looked at his daughter. Her face was streaked with tears. They can't do this, she whispered. Dad, they can't do this. He pulled her into his arms, held her tight, and told her the lie that fathers tell. It's going to be okay. The second arrest happened a week later. This time, it was in front of his house. This time, the cameras were ready. News vans lined the street. Reporters with microphones. Protesters with signs, some supporting him, some calling him a criminal. The police came at 6 a.m., knocked on his door, read him his rights, handcuffed him on his own front porch while his daughter watched from the window, sobbing. They took him downtown, booked him, fingerprinted him, mugshot. The whole degrading ritual designed to strip away dignity, to transform a doctor into a criminal. His bail was set at $50,000. David Kellerman posted it within the hour. But the damage was done. That night, the news ran the footage. Dr. Spencer Tate, doing the perp walk. Hands cuffed behind his back. Eyes forward, trying to maintain some shred of dignity while the world watched him be destroyed. The internet fractured. Half of social media rallied harder to his defense. The other half began to question. Maybe he had argued too much. Maybe he had escalated the situation. Maybe somehow this was partially his fault. That's how it works. Plan enough doubt, repeat it enough times, and even the innocent start to look guilty. The medical board suspended his license pending the outcome of the trial. He wasn't just on leave anymore. He couldn't practice medicine. Couldn't be what he'd spent his entire adult life becoming. At night, he stood in his home office, surrounded by diplomas and awards. Medical school. Residency. Chief of cardiac surgery. Lives saved. Excellence recognized. All of it meaningless now. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your daughter goes to Lincoln High, right? Room 247, third floor? She's very pretty. Would be a shame if something happened to her. Tate's blood turned to ice. He called Ava's phone. No answer. Called again. Again. Finally, she picked up. Dad? What's wrong? Where are you? I'm in my room. Doing homework. Why? Pack a bag. Now. You're going to Aunt Michelle's. What? Dad, no, I'm not leaving you. Ava. His voice cracked. Please. People are threatening you because of me. I can't. I can't protect you and fight this case at the same time. Please, baby girl. Go to your aunt's. Just for a little while. Just until this is over. Silence on the other end. Then, quietly. They're really trying to destroy you, aren't they? Yes. It's not fair. No. It's not. That night, he drove Ava to the airport. She clung to him at the security checkpoint, 16 years old but suddenly looking 12, looking like the little girl who used to climb into his lap when she was scared. I love you, Dad. I love you too, baby. More than anything. He watched her disappear through security. Watched until he couldn't see her anymore. Then he sat in the airport parking garage and wept. Meanwhile, a woman named Naomi Graves was doing what she did best, digging. Naomi was an investigative reporter for the National Observer, one of the few remaining newspapers that still believed in real journalism. She was 42, black, with 3 decades of experience uncovering stories that people in power wanted buried. The Spencer Tate case had interested her from the beginning. Not because of the viral video, that was obvious injustice, easy to see, easy to report. She was interested in what wasn't being said. The questions no one was asking. Like, why had Sergeant Caldwell been in that parking lot in the first place? Like, what was the suspicious vehicle report he claimed to be responding to? Like, who had called it in? She'd filed Freedom of Information requests. Called in favors. Bought drinks for cops who talked too much. Slowly, carefully, she'd started pulling threads. And one thread had caught her attention. A name in Sergeant Caldwell's personnel file. A prior incident. 8 years ago. Dr. William Barnes. Naomi sat in her apartment at 2 a.m., surrounded by case files and coffee cups, staring at a police report from 2017. Dr. William Barnes, age 56. Cardiac surgeon at St. Clement Regional Medical Center. Stopped for a routine traffic violation on his way home from the hospital. During the stop, he suffered what was described as a medical event, a heart attack. He died before paramedics arrived. The officer who conducted the stop, Sergeant Darren Caldwell. The signature on the official police report, clearing Caldwell of any wrongdoing, Captain Gerald Whitmore. Gerald Whitmore. Now Police Chief Gerald Whitmore. Husband of Rebecca Whitmore, the woman Spencer Tate had saved. Naomi's hands started to shake. One incident could be a coincidence. 2 doctors. Same hospital. Same officer. 8 years apart. But what if it wasn't a coincidence? She dug deeper. Pulled Barnes's medical records, redacted, but she had contacts. Found his autopsy report. Found witness statements. And there, buried in the file, a statement from another driver who had been at the scene. The witness claimed Barnes had been detained for over 20 minutes for what should have been a simple traffic stop. Claimed the officer had been unusually aggressive. Claimed Barnes had complained of chest pain and asked for help, but was told to stop being dramatic. By the time paramedics arrived, Barnes was unresponsive. The case had been investigated, briefly, then quietly closed. No evidence of misconduct. Signed off by Captain Gerald Whitmore. Naomi leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. 2 doctors from the same hospital. Both stopped by the same cop. One died. One was being prosecuted for surviving. And the man who'd signed off on the first death was the husband of the woman in the second incident. This wasn't just about racial profiling. This wasn't just about one bad cop. This was something deeper. Something darker. She reached for her phone and called a number she'd been given by a source in the police department. A man who'd told her, off the record, that if she ever needed information about internal problems in the department, he might be able to help. The phone rang 3 times. Then, "This is Lieutenant Cross." "Lieutenant Cross, my name is Naomi Graves. I'm a reporter with the National Observer. I'm investigating the Spencer Tate case, and I think I've found something. Something big. I need your help." A long pause. "Ms. Graves, I can't speak to reporters about ongoing investigations. This isn't about the current investigation. This is about a case from 8 years ago. Dr. William Barnes. I think there's a connection. I think," she took a breath, "I think Spencer Tate is being railroaded to cover up something that happened back then." Another pause. Longer. Then, "Where are you right now?" "My apartment. Stay there. I'll call you back on a secure line in 10 minutes. And Ms. Graves, don't tell anyone about this conversation. If I'm right about what you're suggesting, you're dealing with people who have a lot to lose." The line went dead. Naomi sat in the darkness, her heart pounding. She'd been doing this job for 20 years. She'd uncovered corruption, exposed criminals, brought down politicians. But something about Lieutenant Raymond Cross's voice told her this was different. This was dangerous. 10 minutes later, her phone rang from an unknown number. "Ms. Graves, what I'm about to tell you is off the record. Completely off the record. If you try to quote me, I'll deny it." "Understood." "Understood. I'm with Internal Affairs. I've been looking into certain irregularities in the department for the past 2 years. Patterns. Cases that got closed too quickly. Officers who seem untouchable. And your instinct is right. The Barnes case stinks. It stank 8 years ago. You investigated it?" "I tried to. I was a detective back then, not IA. I flagged it for further review. My concerns were noted and ignored. Captain Whitmore shut it down personally." "Why?" "That's the question, isn't it? I've spent 8 years wondering. And now, with the Tate case, I'm wondering if I'm finally going to get my answer." "What do you need from me?" "Keep digging. Keep asking questions. But be careful. If Whitmore is involved in something, and if he's willing to destroy a man like Spencer Tate to cover it up, he won't hesitate to come after a reporter." "What about you? What are you going to do?" "My job." Finally, 2 weeks after his arrest, Spencer Tate sat in his lawyer's office, looking at the plea deal DA Harrison had offered. "Plead guilty to reckless endangerment," David explained, his voice carefully neutral. "Suspended sentence, probation, mandatory counseling. You avoid prison. And my medical license?" David's expression said everything. "I'd lose it," Tate said flatly. "Probably. Yes. So I admit to something I didn't do, and I lose the ability to practice medicine. The thing I've devoted my entire life to. Or you go to trial. And Spencer, I have to be honest with you. Trials are unpredictable. The jury pool is going to be full of people who respect police. The DA is going to paint you as someone who let their pride endanger a patient. We have the video, yes, but Harrison is good at his job. He'll spin it. What are my chances if we go to trial?" David hesitated. 60-40. "Maybe." "Which way?" Another hesitation. "Against you." Tate stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the city continued its normal rhythm. People working, living, oblivious to the man whose life was being dismantled one piece at a time. 8 years ago, Tate said quietly, a man named Dr. William Barnes died during a traffic stop. He was my mentor. He taught me everything I know about cardiac surgery. He was at the same hospital, stopped by the same cop, and his case was closed by the same man who's now the chief of police. David's chair creaked as he leaned forward. "Spencer, what are you saying?" "I'm saying this isn't random. I'm saying there's something happening here that's bigger than me getting profiled. That's a serious accusation. I know. Do you have any proof? Not yet. But there's a reporter looking into it. Naomi Graves. She contacted me yesterday. David's face went carefully blank. Spencer, you didn't talk to her, did you? No. You told me not to talk to anyone. But she told me what she found. About Dr. Barnes. About the connection. And what did you tell her? That I'd think about it. David stood up, came to stand beside Tate at the window. If there's really a conspiracy here, if the police chief is somehow involved, then going up against him could make things even worse for you. These people have power. Resources. They'll destroy you. Tate turned to look at his lawyer. They're already destroying me, David. I've lost my job. My license. My daughter's in hiding. My reputation is gone. What else can they take? Your freedom. If you lose at trial, you go to prison. And if I take the plea, I lose my soul. They stood there in silence, two men staring out at a city that suddenly felt full of shadows. I need more time, Tate said finally. Before I decide, I need to know what really happened to Dr. Barnes. I need to understand why this is happening. David nodded slowly. I'll ask for an extension. But Spencer, time is the one thing we don't have much of. That night, Naomi Graves received a package at her office. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note written in neat handwriting. The truth about Barnes. Be careful. RC. She plugged the drive into her computer with shaking hands. Files appeared. Dozens of them. Police reports. Radio transcripts. Internal memos. Medical examiner's notes. All from the William Barnes case. But there was more. Sealed records from internal affairs. Complaints against Sergeant Caldwell that had been dismissed. A pattern of aggressive behavior, particularly toward black professionals. Complaints that had all been signed off and closed by Captain, now Chief, Gerald Whitmore. And then, buried in a subfolder, something that made Naomi's breath catch. Audio files. Radio communications from the night Rebecca Whitmore had her heart attack. She clicked play. Dispatch. All units, we have a report of a medical emergency at 447 Maple Drive. Female, approximately 38 years old, possible cardiac event. Static. Then a different voice. Authoritative. Familiar from news conferences. Chief Whitmore. Dispatch, this is Chief Whitmore. I'm 1097 at that location. My wife. Send all available units. And, a pause. Chief Whitmore. Have Unit 47 positioned near Street Clement. Usual protocol. Dispatch. Copy that, Chief. Naomi played it again. And again. Usual protocol. What protocol? Why would the police chief, in the middle of calling for help for his dying wife, think to position a unit near the hospital? Unless he wanted someone slowed down. Her phone rang. Lieutenant Cross. You got the files, he said. It wasn't a question. I got them. Raymond, that audio. I know. I've been sitting on it for 8 years. Couldn't prove what it meant. Still can't. But with the Tate case, the pattern is undeniable. He wanted his wife to die, Naomi said, the words feeling insane even as she said them. Whitmore wanted his own wife to die, and he positioned Caldwell to slow down whoever came to save her. That's what I think. But thinking it and proving it are different things. Why? Why would he want his own wife dead? That's the question I've been trying to answer for 2 years. I've been looking into Gerald and Rebecca Whitmore's marriage. Medical records, financial records, anything I can get legally. And Ms. Graves, that marriage was built on control. He isolated her, monitored her, kept her dependent. Classic abuser pattern. And in the months before her heart attack, she'd started talking about leaving him. Started confiding in friends. Started making plans. So he tried to kill her. I think he tried to make it look like natural causes. Heart attack. Tragic. But he'd be the grieving widower, free and clear. Except Spencer Tate was too good at his job. He saved her. And now Whitmore needs Tate destroyed, because Tate is living proof that Rebecca shouldn't have suffered that damage. That someone was delayed. That someone stopped the doctor who could have saved her completely. Naomi's mind was racing. And 8 years ago, William Barnes. I think Barnes knew something. Saw something. Was asking questions maybe. And Whitmore used Caldwell to silence him. Made it look like a medical event during a routine stop. Jesus Christ. We need more. We need Rebecca Whitmore to talk. And after 8 years of abuse, years of being told she's weak and broken, years of believing it, I don't know if she will. Where is she now? Recovering at home. Under her husband's care. The way he said it made Naomi's skin crawl. We have to talk to her, Naomi said. We have to be very, very careful. If Whitmore suspects we're onto him, he'll make sure we never get near her. And Ms. Graves? Men like Gerald Whitmore don't go down quietly. No, Naomi agreed. They don't. While Naomi and Lieutenant Cross were piecing together the conspiracy, Spencer Tate sat in his empty house, his daughter's empty room across the hall, and tried to remember who he used to be. There was a time, not long ago, when his biggest concerns were surgical techniques and getting Ava to school on time. When his identity was clear, doctor, father, good man. Now he didn't know what he was. Suspect. Criminal. Victim. All of them. None of them. His phone buzzed. A text from Naomi Graves. I have something. Something big. Can we talk? Somewhere private. Tate looked at the phone for a long moment. David had told him not to talk to reporters. David had told him to keep his head down, take the plea, survive this. But surviving wasn't the same as living. He texted back. When and where? The response came immediately. Tomorrow. 7 a.m. Riverside Park, East Entrance. Come alone. Tate set down his phone and walked to his home office. On the wall, among all his awards and diplomas, was a photo of him and Dr. William Barnes on Tate's first day as chief of cardiac surgery. Barnes had his arm around Tate's shoulders, both of them grinning, proud. I'm going to find out what happened to you, Tate said to the photo. I promise. And for the first time in weeks, Spencer Tate felt something other than despair. He felt purpose. The meeting in Riverside Park happened as the sun rose, turning the sky the color of hope. Naomi Graves sat on a bench, a folder in her lap, watching joggers and dog walkers pass by in the early morning light. When Tate sat down beside her, she handed him the folder without preamble. This is everything I have. Everything Lieutenant Cross gave me. Read it, and then tell me if you still want to take that plea deal. Tate opened the folder. Started reading. With each page, his hands gripped the paper tighter. The police reports. The audio recordings. The pattern of complaints. The connection to Dr. Barnes. And finally, the truth that had been hidden for 8 years. When he finished, he looked up at Naomi with eyes that held a dangerous light. They murdered him, he said quietly. They murdered my mentor. And they tried to murder Rebecca Whitmore. And when I saved her, when I did my job, they decided to destroy me to cover it up. That's what we think. But we need proof. We need Rebecca to testify. Will she? I don't know. She's been under his control for decades. Breaking free from that kind of psychological abuse. It's not easy. We have to try. Lieutenant Cross is working on it. But Spencer, you need to understand what you're getting into. If we go public with this, if we accuse a police chief of conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder of his own wife, they will come at us with everything they have. Your case will get worse before it gets better. They'll drag your name through more mud. They'll threaten you, intimidate you, maybe worse. Tate thought about his daughter, safe in another state. Thought about Dr. Barnes, dead for 8 years while his killer walked free. Thought about Rebecca Whitmore, damaged permanently because her husband wanted her weak. I'm not taking the plea deal, he said. Naomi smiled. It was fierce. Good. Because we're going to burn this whole thing down. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of secret meetings, clandestine investigations, and careful planning. Lieutenant Cross worked from the inside, gathering evidence, documenting connections, building an airtight case. Every piece of evidence was copied, backed up, stored in multiple secure locations. They couldn't afford to have anything disappear the way the Barnes case had. Naomi worked her sources, interviewed witnesses from the Barnes case, tracked down people who had known Rebecca Whitmore before her marriage, and painted a picture of a woman who had been systematically isolated and controlled. And Spencer Tate? He waited, and prepared for trial, and refused every attempt by D.A. Harrison to pressure him into a plea. You're making a mistake, Harrison told him during their final meeting. I'm offering you a way out. Take it. No, Tate said simply. You'll go to prison. Maybe. Or maybe I'll be vindicated. And maybe some other people will go to prison instead. Harrison's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? You'll find out. Soon. The trial date was set, December 10th, 6 weeks away. And then, 4 weeks before the trial, Rebecca Whitmore did something no one expected. She called Naomi Graves. They met in a coffee shop on the edge of town, far from anywhere Rebecca might be recognized. She wore sunglasses even though it was overcast, and her hands shook as she held her coffee cup. Naomi recognized her from photos, but the reality was heartbreaking. Rebecca Whitmore at 38 looked 50. Thin, fragile, haunted. Mrs. Whitmore, Naomi said gently. Thank you for meeting me. I don't have much time, Rebecca said, her voice barely above a whisper. Gerald thinks I'm at physical therapy. I understand. What did you want to tell me? Rebecca was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee. When she finally spoke, tears ran down her face. He tried to kill me, she said. My husband. He tried to kill me that night. Naomi's heart raced, but she kept her voice calm. How do you know? I heard him. Before I collapsed. I heard him on the phone. He thought I was in the bedroom, but I was in the hallway. He was talking to someone about making sure things went according to plan. About keeping someone away from the hospital. And then he saw me. And his face. God, his face. It was like he'd been caught. And then my chest started hurting, and everything went black. Do you know who he was talking to? No. But I know it wasn't random. And I know that when I woke up in the hospital, when the doctors told me I'd have permanent damage, Gerald seemed satisfied. Like things had gone exactly how he wanted them to. Except I was alive, which I don't think was the plan. Why are you coming forward now? Rebecca looked up, and her eyes were clear despite the tears. Because I saw the news. I saw what they're doing to Dr. Tate. That man saved my life. And they're destroying him. And I realized, if I stay quiet, if I let Gerald do this, then I'm complicit. I'm letting an innocent man go to prison for my husband's crime. And I can't. I can't live with that. Rebecca, if you testify, your husband will know. He'll come after you. I know. She wiped her eyes. I'm scared. God, I'm terrified. But I'm more scared of what I'll become if I keep being his victim. I've been his prisoner for 20 years. I'm done. Naomi reached across the table, took Rebecca's hand. We'll protect you. Lieutenant Cross, he's a good man. He'll make sure you're safe. Will you tell Dr. Tate that I'm sorry? That I didn't know what Gerald was doing until it was too late. But I'm sorry anyway. You can tell him yourself. When you testify. Rebecca nodded. Took a shaky breath. Okay. What do I need to do? And just like that, the case against Spencer Tate began to crumble. The next 2 weeks moved fast. Lieutenant Cross brought Rebecca into protective custody, officially documenting her statement. She told them everything. Years of emotional abuse, control, isolation. The suspicious phone call. Her husband's strange behavior after her heart attack. With Rebecca's testimony, Cross was able to get a warrant. They searched Gerald Whitmore's home, his office, his files. And they found everything. Sealed documents about the Barnes case that should have been in official files but weren't. Personal notes indicating Whitmore knew Caldwell had a pattern of aggressive behavior toward black professionals. Financial records showing payments to Caldwell outside his normal salary. And most damning, a journal. Whitmore had kept a journal because powerful men always think they're too smart to get caught. In it, detailed plans. Observations about his wife's desire to leave. Calculations about life insurance, assets, freedom. And references to the Barnes solution. The Barnes solution. William Barnes, dead for 8 years, finally had justice. On November 15th, 3 weeks before Spencer Tate's trial was scheduled to begin, Chief Gerald Whitmore was arrested at his office. The charges: conspiracy to commit murder in the case of Dr. William Barnes. Attempted murder of Rebecca Whitmore. Obstruction of justice. Abuse of power. Sergeant Darren Caldwell was arrested the same day. He took a plea deal within 48 hours, agreeing to testify against Whitmore in exchange for a reduced sentence. And on November 16th, DA Michael Harrison held a press conference. Spencer Tate stood beside his lawyer, watching on television as Harrison, the same man who had railroaded him, who had charged him with a crime to protect the police, spoke into the cameras. After new evidence came to light, my office has determined that the charges against Dr. Spencer Tate were filed in error. All charges are hereby dismissed. We apologize to Dr. Tate for the ordeal he has endured, and we commend him for his service and dedication to his patients. Tate waited for the anger, waited for the rage, but all he felt was tired. You did it, David said, clapping him on the shoulder. It's over. No, Tate said quietly. It's not over. Not yet. Spencer Tate's medical license was reinstated 1 week later. The hospital board sent a formal letter of apology and an offer to return to his position as chief of cardiac surgery. He accepted. On his first day back, his colleagues gave him a standing ovation as he walked through the hospital corridors. Some were crying. All of them knew what he'd been through, what he'd survived. Patricia Chen hugged him so hard he could barely breathe. "Welcome home, Spencer. It's good to be home." That evening, he performed his first surgery in 2 months. A bypass, routine by his standards. But his hands were steady, his mind was clear, and when the patient's heart beat strong and healthy, Tate felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Afterward, he went to the hospital memorial garden, where a new plaque had been installed. In memory of Dr. William Barnes. Dedicated physician, devoted teacher, beloved friend. His legacy lives on in the lives he saved. And the doctors he inspired. Tate stood there for a long time, reading those words over and over. "We got him," he said to the memorial. "We got justice for you." Finally, the wind rustled through the trees. And maybe it was just his imagination, but Tate could almost hear his mentor's voice. "I'm proud of you, Spencer. So proud." The trial of Gerald Whitmore took place in February. It lasted 3 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Rebecca's testimony was devastating. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Gerald Whitmore was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Darren Caldwell, in exchange for his testimony, received 15 years. He would serve every day of it. And the Barnes case, officially reopened, was ruled a homicide. Though the statute of limitations meant no additional charges could be filed, the record was corrected. Dr. William Barnes had not died of natural causes during a routine traffic stop. He had been murdered by a police officer acting on the orders of a corrupt superior. His family finally had closure. His name was finally cleared. On a warm evening in March, Spencer Tate picked up his daughter from the airport. Ava ran to him, 16 years old, and trying to pretend she was too mature to cry, but crying anyway as she threw her arms around his neck. Dad, you did it." "We did it," he corrected. "All of us. Everyone who fought." 7:26 p.m. They drove home through their city, past the hospital where Tate saved lives, past the streets where he'd been handcuffed and humiliated, past the courthouse where justice had finally, belatedly, arrived. "Are you going to be okay?" Ava asked quietly. "After everything they did to you?" Tate thought about that. Thought about the rage that had burned in him for months. Thought about the despair, the fear, the moments when he'd wanted to give up. And then he thought about Rebecca Whitmore, testifying against her abuser. Lieutenant Raymond Cross, risking his career for the truth. Naomi Graves, digging until she found the answers. His colleagues standing by him. His daughter, believing in him even when the world called him a criminal. "Yeah," he said finally. "I think I'm going to be okay. It's going to take time. But I'm going to be okay." That night, he stood in his home office, looking at the photo of him and Dr. Barnes. His mentor. His friend. The man whose death had almost been forgotten. Almost been buried. Almost been lost to the machinery of a corrupt system that protected its own. But not anymore. Spencer Tate had learned something through all of this. Something important. The truth doesn't always win. Justice doesn't always prevail. Sometimes the system is rigged, and the good guys lose, and the powerful get away with everything. But sometimes, just sometimes, if you refuse to be silent, if you refuse to be broken, if you fight with everything you have, sometimes you win. And when you do, you win for everyone. For yourself. For the people who believed in you. And for the people who didn't live to see justice, but who deserve to be remembered. Spencer Tate, cardiac surgeon, father, survivor, went to sleep that night with his daughter safe down the hall, his reputation restored, his purpose renewed. The system had tried to destroy him. Instead, he had exposed its corruption. They had tried to make him invisible. Instead, they had given him a voice that would never be silenced. And somewhere, in whatever comes after, Dr. William Barnes was smiling. Justice had come late. But it had come. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can be is right. But sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're brave, if you refuse to surrender to injustice, being right is enough. This was the story of Dr. Spencer Tate, the surgeon they tried to stop, the man they tried to break, the voice they tried to silence. He saved a life and almost lost everything. But he fought back. And he won. Not just for himself, but for every person who's ever been seen as a threat instead of a human being. For every victim of corruption who was told to stay quiet. For every truth that was buried but refused to stay dead. Dr. William Barnes is at peace now. Rebecca Whitmore is free. And Spencer Tate stands in operating rooms, saving lives, his hands steady, his conscience clear. The doctor they couldn't see? The world sees him now, and it will never forget his name.